Hey everybody, it's day 30. I've made it, yay! And just so happens that the 30th day ends on Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all you mothers at heart and everyone who's touched a child. I bid you happy Mother's Day and lots of love. So today, guess who's back? She's back, y'all, by popular demand because we got over 350 views on that last video with my mom, Lucinda. And so since you guys got a kick out of her last week, then we're going to talk again. And today we were at lunch again with my brother, and we got on the subject of my mom living in the country and some of the stuff that went on, some of the shenanigans that went on when people live in the country just trying to make a living. So the subject came up with one uncle of hers that was, you said that was Uncle Alvin?
George.
Uncle George, okay. And
George Hall.
George Hall, and was he from the, was he Indian?
No.
Okay, but you
Just
had
black
some-
man.
Okay, just black man. And he had the best
Corn whiskey.
in the area. My mom grew up in an area called Beggs, outside of Tulsa, about an hour outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So when you live in the country, to make a living, you do what you have to do. So making corn whiskey was illegal. So with what they call them revenuers down that time, and we're talking in the what, late 30s, early 40s?
40s, early 40s.
So would the revenuers come around to try and see if they could bust somebody who's
Yes,
liquor?
but they would come around at night and go in the woods where people had their distilleries and poke holes in the ground to find them. And if they found them, then you end up going to jail.
So we've had some relatives that ended up, just because they were making their moonshine, as they call it, to sell, that they got busted. And I know my grandfather ended up in Seagoville, Texas, in federal jail for doing moonshine or whatever they were
And
making.
so did Uncle George.
So Uncle George went in too. Did he go to
Yes.
the same jail that Granddaddy went to?
Yes,
Okay.
Seagoville.
So they shipped him off to Texas to serve whatever time. Do you remember how much time they would get?
About 5 years, I think.
They would get that long?
Mhm.
Would they stay that whole 5 years?
Yeah.
Now, when they got out, would they come back and do it again?
No.
Oh, okay, so they learned. they learned
They
that.
they didn't get any parole.
So they had to come back.
They had to serve the full term.
So they have to get back and find some other kind of form of income.
Well, they were farmers anyway. Every one of them were farmers.
Oh,
but-
so this was their side hustle.
Right.
Okay, you multitaskers out there, you side hustle people. So that's what they were doing back in the early 40s. But I can't hate on them because when you have limited resources, you do what you need to do to feed your family. And that's what Uncle George was doing, and my granddaddy, and all those people down there. So I had a friend that lived on some land. His dad was a moonshiner too, and to this day, he's still finding bottles that were buried in underground. That's how they avoided the revenuers. They would bury their stashes, and so he's still finding bottles. But the day that I knew my mom was funny, and you don't know I'm gonna bring this up, but this was the funniest story to me. My mom has this story about, was it a chicken or a rooster that was bow-legged?
It was a chicken. It was a hen.
So you had this bow-legged chicken, and you just used the chicken to produce eggs?
Well, what happened was my mother gave the chicken to my uncle. And then when because she didn't want to cook the chicken.
Because she got
Yeah.
kind of fond of the chicken because it was bow-legged, or she felt sorry for the chicken?
Well, my stepfather operated on the chicken.
Okay, I hadn't heard about that.
And so
Operated like what? Put a splint on it or something?
I don't remember, because I was, pretty young, but I do remember that he did something with his pocket knife and did something to get the chicken where he's walking straight. And then my mother said she was going to give a chicken to my Uncle Alvin. He was not the whiskey maker.
Okay,
It
that was Uncle
another
George.
uncle.
Okay.
and and so when she gave the chicken to Uncle Alvin, his wife cooked it, and then he brought it back to us so we could have a part of it. And my mother said, "Oh my Lord," she said, "Alvin, he's so dumb. He ended up bringing a stupid chicken back."
So she was trying to get rid of the chicken to somebody because there was apparently some affection there, and then here he comes back with fried
Yeah,
chicken.
because after my stepfather had operated on him, chicken was okay. Wasn't nothing wrong with the chicken, but it was
Okay.
getting too old, and it ended up, becoming what they call a stewing chicken
Okay.
back that time.
Okay.
So,
So did she fry it? What'd she do? She fried it?
I don't remember,
remember? You don't remember if it was good? or
But she
not?
was a great cook.
Okay,
So,
so we probably had some good eating off that bow-legged chicken. But that was, I never heard that story, and then a piece of it is new to me too. So I just think it's the funniest story that my mom has ever told about this chicken. So there are you, some country living. Now, one other aspect of her past is that she grew up in an area where there was a lot of harvesting going on, and they grew cotton in that area of Texas. I'm sorry, area of Oklahoma. So I was asking her about, what are the dynamics of chopping and picking cotton and all of that. So how old were you when you?
I was probably 5 years old when I would be walking along with my mother, and all the kids, would pick the cotton in a bucket and then take it from the bucket and put it in our parents' sack. And they had big, long sacks that would hold like 100 pounds. And so they didn't have any nurseries or anything, for the kids. Either the older kids stayed home with the younger kids, and I was the only child, so I was right along with my mother, walking along on those long cotton roads.
So you were 5, and that's when you started, contributing to their, you had your bucket and put it in their sacks. And as you got older, up until what age did you stop being in the cotton fields?
Well, the last time I picked cotton, I was probably 16,
Okay.
because you had to stay out of school for a day or two and work in the field. And all the kids did, and sometimes, the parents, they end up keeping the kids out of school to work, and a lot of them end up quitting school and just leaving home.
Mm-hmm. Trying to make a
A lot of them, didn't get much education.
So there was a season for chopping cotton, and you said there was a season for picking?
First you start out the chopping the cotton, early part when the cotton start growing. You chop it and take the weeds out of it. And then when the cotton, in between the cotton, then the corn start growing, and then you have to chop the corn, and then the next thing you gather the corn, and then by this time it's time for the cotton to be harvested. And so then you have to, go out and pick the cotton.
Okay, and you mentioned that there were pecan seasons.
Once the season for the cotton was over, then we would go to the pecan bottoms and pick up pecans. And you pick up the pecans and sold them in hundreds. They probably was $10 a 100 pound. Back in those days, it might have been $1 a 100. I don't remember.
Now you mentioned that you would have that men would go up in the trees to shake the pecans
Right.
loose.
One of my uncles, which was my mother's older brother,
What was his name?
His name was Lorenzo,
Okay.
and he was always the frailer for the pecans. He'd go up the tree and then take a maul and hit the limbs, and then all the pecans would fall down. Then we'd pick them up and put them, and then we'd take them to the store and sell them.
Okay.
And all of these things was a form of what we had to do to make a living.
Okay, so to all of you that had no past history of knowing what it took in the past for people to work in cotton fields, it's hard work. My mother started at 5 up until 16, and by the time you got to 16, you had your own sack, that 100-pound sack that you were
Right.
walking through the roads with. So in the heat of summer too. So we all know what summer is like in these southern areas, and they had to work through that. So what time of the day would you all start? Would it be before dawn or?
Probably 7, I think 7 o'clock,
And then you would get done at what time?
4.
Okay. All right.
They didn't have any special time like they do now. You work 8 hours, you work until you finish.
And there would be, whole families out there, the neighbors, and so everybody is out there working together doing the same thing. So it wasn't, any kind of hierarchy.
Right.
Everybody was financially challenged, poor, or whatever, and they just did what they had to do. So
'Cause that was for our food and our clothes and whatever, and everything that we worked for went to our parents. They never gave us any cash.
So y'all were free labor. That's why people had all these children. So you were kind of lucky being only child. So my mother was the only child and very spoiled by her grandmother. She was her namesake. So we had, my mom's name was Lucinda, her grandmother's name was Lucinda, and her grandmother's name was Lucinda after I was doing the genealogy. So that name carries a lot of power through the family and the strength. And these were hard-working women, y'all. So, families. And so that's her story. Anything else you want to talk
And then
about?
also, we had to, after we harvested the cotton and all that, we had to can our own fruits and vegetables from the garden, and that was that. They didn't have any canned food sitting on the shelf.
And no Kroger and
No.
Albertsons and none of that 7-Eleven to go to. What about, was there something that was made at the special time of year that you really, really liked, that you were looking forward to having? Any kind of food that you couldn't get during, a certain time of 24 hours?
Only thing we had was seasonal thing. We never had anything coming from other countries and other states and all of that. Whatever we had, then when it was all over, then you had to wait till next year. And like when the holidays come, you didn't have any fruits and stuff, so they sold dried fruit, and we took the dried fruit and made our peach pies, and they had this fruit they called mincemeat, and it was something similar to a raisin pie. And all of these things, we never knew nothing about any food coming in from any other countries or whatever.
And I'm not a lover of sweet potato pie, but my mom makes the best sweet potato pie that I've ever had. It's smooth. There's no with the strings, none of that. I've had other people's, and I'm like, comparing to my mother, I'm like, I'd rather eat hers more than anybody. Her phone's ringing, so somebody's probably calling her for Mother's Day. But I think that's it. Now you've got a fan base out there now. So I told you that last video we had over 350 views on there. So if you have an audience that want to send you an email or something, what's your email?
Lucinda DeVille 68 at gmail.com.
Okay, say it again.
Lucinda DeVille 68 at gmail.com.
Okay, because she is not on social media, so we're going to have to go back to email if you guys have any questions for her, and she loves to communicate. So she's a lot more talkative today. I had to kind of boost her up, and then we had margaritas at lunch too, so that kind of loosened us up. But again, it's day 30. Happy Mother's Day, and I love you. And
love you too.
Thank you. And all you mothers out there, hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day.
And I have the best children and grandchildren in the world.
Okay, so you got 3 kids. How many grandkids?
6 grandchildren, 2 boys and 4 girls, and 3 great-grandchildren.
Okay.
2 girls and 1 boy.
Okay, so from the cotton fields to the aircraft what do y'all call them, hangars or whatever you were working today?
Manufacturing,
Okay.
we were building, the aircraft.
So that's just to let you know how just the lifespan can go from one thing to the other, and how unpredictable things can happen for you. So go out there and.
Because during the time when I was born, everything was very prejudiced. Everything was listed as black and white, the water fountains, the bathrooms, and all of that. And we could only go wherever we were told to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
And
segregation
my
was
school
real.
was not integrated. I went to school with all black people and Native Indians.
And your teachers, was it all faculty,
All-
staff was all black too?
Right.
Okay. So what
There
else?
was nothing integrated until 1967, and I graduated in 1953.
Okay, and she left there and went out to California. So I think that's it for today, Miss Lucindy. And my mother's nickname with her family is Tootsie.
Tootsie.
So if somebody calls and says Tootsie, I know that's somebody from back in the day. But so a lot of neighbors, she introduces herself as Cindy because a lot of people botch her name up, but it is Lucinda, Lucinda. So again, her email is lucindadeville68@gmail, and she loves, if y'all want to send her an email, she'll answer you. And
We had people cursing me.
no, she's not gonna curse you out. But this is kind of like it's an education, but so we're schooling folks today. So you want to tell the public out there Happy Mother's Day?
Happy Mother's Day to
All right.
everyone.
Okay, and all y'all out there, have a great day.
And have a wonderful day.